When soldiers marched across Europe in the First World War, every ounce of weight mattered. Their survival often depended on how efficiently they packed, carried and maintained their gear through mud, rain and shell fire. And yet, what most people don't realize is that the WWI infantryman was effectively a master minimalist backpacker, a man forced by war to perfect the art of carrying everything he needed to live, fight and sleep, often for weeks at a time. What's remarkable is how those same principles, refined through necessity more than a century ago, can completely transform how we approach modern hiking, bushcraft or survival travel today. So, before you head out to buy the latest ultralight gear, let's take a closer look at what one of history's toughest travellers carried, and how his forgotten methods can make your pack lighter, your setup smarter, and your time outdoors far more efficient. The great war soldier learned to carry his world on his back. A British or German soldier's standard kit in 1916 was brutally simple but highly strategic. The British 08 webbing system, for instance, wasn't just a belt. It was a modular load-bearing harness designed to distribute weight evenly around the torso. Food, ammunition, tools and personal items all had a specific place, keeping the centre of gravity close to the body and freeing the arms for movement. That's something modern hikers often overlook. Instead of cramming everything into one oversized backpack, WWI soldiers used a distributed load philosophy. The haversack carried essentials, food, cleaning kit and rations, while the large pack carried sleeping gear and spare clothing. Small pouches on the belt held items used frequently, such as a mess tin or a water bottle. If you're setting up for modern backpacking, this same idea applies beautifully. Keep your heaviest and least used items closer to your spine, your daily essentials easily reachable, and your survival-critical gear, like a knife, fire kit or first aid, attached where you can access it instantly. It's not about how much you can carry, it's about how well your pack carries you. Simplicity and redundancy were the secrets of reliability. WWI soldiers didn't have the luxury of specialized gear for every purpose. Instead, nearly every item had multiple uses. The humble ground sheet was a perfect example. It could serve as a rain cloak, a tarp, a stretcher, or a temporary roof. Soldiers quickly learned that versatility was survival. A single wool blanket could be used as bedding, insulation, or even as a poncho when pinned properly. This philosophy of multi-use gear is what modern minimalists and survivalists now call redundant utility. Rather than carrying a dozen items for individual tasks, the soldier's kit relied on a few durable tools that could adapt to countless situations. If you apply this principle today, start with your shelter and clothing. A waxed canvas tarp, cut to the dimensions of an original army ground sheet, can serve as your rain fly, bivvy cover or fire reflector. A wool blanket, treated with lanolin or oil, will outperform synthetic sleeping bags in wet weather. A good mess tin, patterned after the 1915 design, can be used to cook, boil water, or even bake bread directly over coals. These aren't outdated concepts. They're proven systems that survived trench warfare. The soldier's bare minimum hygiene kit kept him alive. Modern hikers often underestimate how much basic hygiene impacts endurance. In the First World War, trench foot, lice and infections were daily threats, and soldiers were trained to maintain strict routines even under fire. Every kit included a razor, a toothbrush, soap, foot powder, and a cleaning cloth for gear. It wasn't vanity, it was survival. When applied to modern travel or survival, the lesson is clear. Personal maintenance is preventive medicine. The simplest act, drying socks by the fire, cleaning a canteen daily, rewrapping a bandage, makes the difference between comfort and collapse. If you're building your own soldier's hygiene kit, strip it down to the essentials: a bar of soap, a cloth, a comb, a razor, a small first aid pouch, and foot care items. Keep it in a waterproof pouch, separate from your food. Soldiers learned early that contaminated soap or cloth could mean infection. This discipline of maintenance also extended to weapons and tools. Soldiers oiled their rifles nightly, not just to preserve them, but to maintain order in chaos. Apply that same principle to your knife, axe, or pack hardware. Regular, calm maintenance is the difference between thriving outdoors and surviving uncomfortably. Rations were designed for endurance, not pleasure. A soldier's daily ration might sound grim: hardtack, tinned meat, tea, and sometimes a bit of jam, but it was perfectly balanced for energy and storage. What's fascinating is how modern survivalists have returned to the same idea. Calorie-dense, compact, long-lasting food that doesn't spoil easily. For example, the standard iron ration issued to British troops consisted of preserved meat biscuits and tea, small enough to fit in a pocket but enough to sustain a man for a full day. German and Austro-Hungarian troops carried similar rations, often with dried peas or sausage. The key was nutrient balance and packaging, everything wrapped in waxed paper tins or cloth to stay dry. To adapt this lesson, pack rations that require minimal cooking but offer high energy return. Pemmican hardtack, jerky, or compressed oat bars all follow the same formula. Store them in waxed paper or cloth wraps instead of plastic to allow airflow and prevent mould. If you want to replicate the soldier's endurance diet, a tin of meat and a handful of oat biscuits will teach you more about energy management than any sports gel. The bedroll and greatcoat formed a survival system in themselves. In those harsh climates, the World War I soldier's bedroll was an art form. A single greatcoat, thick wool, waterproofed with lanolin, was rolled together with the blanket and ground sheet, secured across the pack. At rest, this bundle provided warmth, shelter, and even served as a stretcher or flotation aid when needed. For modern outdoorsmen, the principle still stands. A simple roll combining insulation, waterproofing, and outer protection outperforms many overcomplicated systems. You can build your own by layering a wool blanket, tarp, and spare clothing, then rolling it tightly with paracord or leather straps. This packable system gives you immediate shelter and insulation in one piece, just like the soldiers used. What makes the World War I soldier's kit so inspiring isn't just its design. It's the philosophy behind it. Every item had earned its place through experience, and every ounce carried meaning. These men didn't pack for comfort, they packed for continuity. Their gear had to perform without failure in conditions that modern equipment would rarely endure. Applying that mindset changes how you pack for any expedition. It teaches you to trust simplicity, to value materials that last, and to prepare for maintenance, not replacement. A soldier's pack wasn't about surviving one trip. It was about staying operational indefinitely. with only what could be repaired or repurposed by hand. The next time you prepare for a backpacking trip or survival outing, take a moment to study the World War I soldier's loadout. Strip away the excess, re-evaluate the essentials. Practice packing with balance and purpose. You'll find that the century-old logic of the trenches still outperforms much of what modern outdoor marketing sells today. If this deep dive into the soldier's kit and its modern applications taught you something new, make sure to subscribe to Echoes of Valor, share this with a fellow history enthusiast, and explore more forgotten technologies that still define endurance today. The Great War may be long over, but its lessons in efficiency, discipline, and adaptability remain undefeated.